Do you ever wonder why you're doing what you do in life? Do you wish that you could be really happy and passionate about what you do? Or maybe you already are and you want to expand in a different direction. Hi, I'm Barbara Anne, host of What the Why? I love what I do. A lot of that has to do with my story, my journey to this point in life. And guess what? Everybody has a story. So please join me for conversations with leaders from all walks of life about what they do, and more importantly, why they do it, how they found their core purpose, their passion, their mission in life. And if you're looking for your own, maybe you'll get some great suggestions on how you too can find your why.
Welcome back, everyone, to another episode of What the Why in our season 5. If you haven't seen us before, our show features conversations with diverse leaders from all walks of life about why they do what they do and how they figured out their purpose. If you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, and this is a good one if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, or you feel stuck and you want to get unstuck, whether that's in your career, your relationships, or just life in general, all of our guests have something similar along the way. They felt similarly and they decided to do something about it. And today's guest is no exception. I'm super excited to introduce you to Sheyenne. So let me just tell you a little bit about Sheyenne. Sheyenne Kreamer has spent more than 20 years helping people um, connect their head and heart, something I do a lot with my coaching clients, and their soul's desire to create their income while making a positive impact in the world. That's what better way than to create income through your own, positive impacts and desires and the things that you felt that are supposed to be your purpose. Her personal mission is to provide physical and emotional and spiritual clearing to allow more people to find that energy to live in their purpose. And as a full-time RVer, which was one of the most fascinating things that I found out about her when we had our first introduction, her passion is also to help create new communities that help heal our wounds, house people that want it, and educate people on ways to become self-sustaining that are in alignment with our creator. Super excited. She is joining us from Warm Space right now. She'll tell us where we are. But without further ado, please please join me in welcoming Sheyenne Kreamer to our show. So yay, welcome, welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Barbara Ann. It's a joy to be here.
Yes. Oh my gosh. So just the fact that you're a full-time RVer, that in of itself is so cool. And but before you became a full-time RVer, you had a life, right? And as part of that life, there was little Cheyenne growing up. And so, as all of our many viewers, thank you, viewers who are watching and listening, know, we always ask our guests at the very beginning, after reading their bio, what did little Cheyenne want to be when you were growing up?
Oh, and that's always interesting. The one that always pops to my head first was an astronaut. I think it's just because I always felt like I was from another world, but
Which
but
is
really,
which is awesome, but technically you explore now, so one could say that they are interconnected.
well, this is true. Not to mention that I was actually born on Columbus Day, so I'm a natural explorer. So what can I say? But I did a lot when I was young in terms of thinking I needed to be a teacher of some sort. Not so sure I ever wanted to be a traditional teacher, but I was known in my neighborhood for sticking kids behind desks with math books.
Just what every kid wants to do after school, play school, right?
Yep, that was me.
So how did you get from that kid who was playing school after school with obviously very patient or trapped friends
That was
to
probably it.
where you are now in terms of the work you do trying to build community and holistic health and wellness, and we'll talk a little bit about some of the things that you did for me, um, and basically looking to heal wounds while basically on this massive journey of discovery as an RVer.
Discovery is right. Um, I think when things really started to connect for me was actually when I was getting ready to graduate high school, because I noticed that I had a lot of friends. First of all, I lost a good friend to suicide in high school. I've lost two more since then. And one of the things I noticed was that a lot of my friends were going off to college to study what very well-meaning parents wanted them to study. And my mom, bless her heart, she was bound and determined that I should be an electrical engineer. Well, it wasn't until several years later, when I was forced to take a class in electronics, that I found out how much that would have been a bad idea. I
Not
am not
you.
an electronics person, not at all. But my valedictory speech in high school ended up being follow your heart.
Mhm.
And, it was really, there was one of my friends, especially, that I knew he had this huge desire to be involved in ministry, but he was being pushed off to go study accounting because he was good at it. And he's one of the friends that I lost a few years ago. He spent most of his life being severely depressed. And I truly believe it. A lot of it had to do with the fact that he had this mission here that he couldn't give himself permission to pursue, largely because nobody out here would give him permission.
Yeah.
That's a sad, sad revelation. So that was kind of the beginning, along with going through some traditional corporate America kinds of positions, learned how to be a project manager, and got laid off multiple times and just said, okay, I don't like this game. I want a new one. And found myself getting this wild idea. I was literally peeling potatoes one night at the kitchen sink, and this crazy idea hit my brain that said, be a consultant. And I was like, what? Where did that come from? Because I knew nothing about entrepreneurship at that time.
Mm.
And so I had to basically follow gut instincts, follow whatever inspirations came to me to figure out that actually some of the things I had learned in corporate were very appropriate to be able to use to be an independent consultant. And it was really about presenting yourself as a problem solver and how you could reduce a company's costs by helping them to solve a problem. So that was kind of the beginning of a lot of the entrepreneurial stuff. I was already starting to um, get involved in researching about health and wellness. I had asthma and bronchitis as a child. That was horrible. I'm very grateful that I haven't had any of that in the last 20 years. So, I was doing the research, I was learning a lot, and I really wanted to learn about depression because there was so many people, and today even more so, people who are just full of depression, anxiety, really wanting to understand some of the roots of that and how could we find ways to pull ourselves out of that without having to be in the pharmaceutical world for the rest of our lives. So lots of things happened that kind of pulled us into these variety of things.
Which is
So
awesome. So awesome. And for those who didn't catch, she really downplays. I mean, like, when I was giving my valedictory speech, no, this is a brilliant person here. And sometimes when we hear things like holistic, people think of that as, I actually had somebody recently saying, oh, what you do is woo-woo. Like, no, it's science. It's absolute
it's science.
science. Coaching,
It is.
science. Neuroplasticity, science. Healing from
Mm-hmm.
trauma, science. These things they're just now really starting to delve into the code of DNA and how people have passed things on generationally by evolution. Like what they survived, they passed to their dependents and their descendants, and so we you hear terms like, group-based or race-based or generational trauma, and there's science to it. And you
There is.
and you do some work in tech that's kind of cracked into some of that too, which is really fascinating. So how, first of all, Unity for Peace and Wellness is an overall, as I understand it, vision statement of yours. Let's talk about the nitty-gritty of how you actually help people find it.
Well, Unity for Wellness and Peace is actually a system that my husband and I have put together over the last 25 years. And it incorporates all the different pieces that you were describing earlier because, for one, especially since we've been on the road. We've been on the road almost 7 years now. And we have found that the two main things that stop people from living in their purpose is health issues and financial issues. And so we want to take away as much of those as possible so that they can follow what's here and connect the head and the heart and be able to operate from that. So, our big project right now that we're working on, which is really the culmination of the prototyping of the system, is to be able to purchase a campground where a portion of the campground will become a place where we can bring, and we're wanting to focus initially on young adults who don't really have a career path. We have a big heart for aged out foster youth because they just haven't had any stability in their life. They've typically been through a lot of trauma, and a lot of them are creative geniuses from what we've seen with the work we've done. So to be able to have a portion of a campground where we can have places that we can house some of these people, take the survival issues out of it, make it so they're not worried about where, do they have a roof over their head and are they going to get fed tomorrow? So having that portion and then being able to bring in the healing of body, mind, and spirit, because we have a lot of tools. And yes, you and I have talked about some of those. We have tools that are able to help to reduce stress in the body, help people be able to deal more effectively with past trauma. We have all kinds of supplementation we work with that helps to improve brain health through minerals, all of these different things. So these would all be available to the people that we're housing in our campground. And then the final piece is to help people become self-sustaining, help them find a path where they can make money and hopefully enjoy doing it. So we're really going to be looking for people who want to learn more about the trades. And in this first campground, and yes, I said first, we intend to train some young people on how to be RV repair technicians because there's a huge shortage and it is a very well-paying type of industry.
I'm so glad you brought that up because there's first of all, there is a big mechanic shortage. There's a big trade shortage in general, right? So we know that there was 20
Yes.
to get all sciencey, there's 26,000 projected mechanic shortage in 2026, and here we are. And they knew
Yep.
this pre-pandemic, right? And so, and then of course, RVers, you're out and about. Like, good luck finding a mechanic in general, let alone, So yeah, that sounds like it could be an incredibly lucrative, just like they're looking for uh, plane mechanics and diesel mechanic, very highly specialized roles that don't come with student loan debt.
Well, and it's true. I was just looking online today. I mean, there's a company that will train people online in how to become RV repair technicians. And, you still need to have kind of a mentor who can give you kind of the hands-on experience to go along with it. But I'm telling you, we had to have a mobile repair tech come and work on our RV recently, $300 just for them to appear.
Wow. Wow. In a country where we literally have a shortage
Mm-hmm.
and so many brilliant people that can do that work.
Well, and true. And a lot of our challenged younger generations, and this is probably true of adults as well, but I've worked a lot with at-risk populations, and a lot of them are kinesthetic learners. So to
Yes.
stick them in a college classroom and say, we want you to pull A's, yeah, they're listening, being able to hear or read and learn. They need the hands-on. So the trades is the perfect place for them to be.
You just picked up my son. I talk about him all the time. He owns his own music and production company, neurodiverse. They call it multi-spectrum productions. He'll come up to you and say, "What's your ism?" Trained as a mechanic. Did well in school and the things he liked, and did not do well in school and the things he just didn't connect with or did not like. And he'll be the first one to
Mhm.
tell you. Super, super smart, very smart. Can pick up an instrument, play.
Yep.
But
Yep.
knew from the day he got here he was not going the same path I was. And in
Right.
fact, I've even joked that God put him in my life to prove to me I have no control over anything. And sometimes you just have to kind of just give the wheel up. And
That's it.
uh, so you're creating this campground, you're creating these programs where people can actually have a place to have their most basic needs met, to get educated. But let's get back to the trauma part because Scan My Face has a very particular purpose. So, and you did that with me, and I have used it. And I won't get into my stuff because my stuff's already out there in its own interviews that I've done, but it's continuing to evolve. And let's talk about this system, this piece of the system, Scan My Face. Help I understand, why do you want people to let them scan your face?
Oh, and that is such a great question because, everybody is loving glitzy technology these days, right? And, one of the greatest frustrations I've ever had is when you offer some very high quality, some kind of nutrition, and people go, I take a multivitamin. I don't know if it's doing anything for me. It's like, well, how about if we find out? Because I can send a link to anybody's cell phone anywhere in the world, and they can use that link to do a 30-second scan on themselves and be able to get a readout of 200 different biomarkers that tell you everything from, what your heart rate and respiration is to what your stress level is right now, what your how's your cardiovascular system, how's your gastrointestinal system, it gives you so much data. And so if somebody's got a specific concern, then what I love doing is a before and after. It's like, okay, well, the app even will tell people what kind of products they should be using. So if you're really concerned about inflammation, well, here's a couple of products that are really, really good for that. Let's do the scan now. Take the products for 30 days, and then let's do another scan. And guess what? If this says that your inflammation has improved, well, now you know that you made a good investment.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I love about this, because it takes the guesswork out, and you can actually see the improvement that you're experiencing. That's a good thing.
Yeah. And what's interesting is, so I have a naturopath that's helped me drastically. I've been open in some
Mhm.
of my shows about my own issues, which have drastically improved. I'm on down to like 25% of meds I was on a couple of years ago with diet and just simple things. But the technology is real. Things like he scanned my voice so he could
Mm.
figure out what color sounds would work best.
Yep.
And
Yep.
this kind of takes it to another level because I've done the 120 the 23andMe DNA, and they've kind of found different things that are consistent in my family line throughout history. This can do it with a scan.
Hmm. Hmm. Absolutely. So, yeah, I love using this. It is just simplified so much. People don't have to take my word for anything. It's like, here's evidence. And a lot of people haven't heard of the technology. I know it's called TOI. It's transdermal optical imaging. There, I got it. So, you can look that up. You can Google that, and TOI is being used in lots of medical things. So, like you said, we're not talking woo-woo here. We're talking about real science. But unfortunately, it's real science that the medical community at large has not been trained in.
Mm. Not been, and that's interesting because that takes us in a potential different conversation of not been trained in or not in their best interest to train them in. Because
Good question.
uh, because of some of the things that I do, I've actually worked with companies, startups that companies have said, why would we want to buy a cure? There's no money in the cure.
Hmm. Yep,
The money is
that's
keeping
it.
people dependent. And so
It-
there's so much out there that can be done that isn't being done. And so part of what you're trying to do is make that accessible. So like you said, you can send the link to anybody and they can just scan their face.
mhm.
And then what happens next?
Well, the beauty is that they see the report, but I see it as well. So I can kind of walk them through it and help them to understand all the tons of data that's there because it is a lot. And for a lot of people, it can look really overwhelming. And I apologize. I think there's going to be a train coming through here.
Oh, that's all right. Usually the viewers of this podcast know that we are all about authenticity, and what we can do is we can pause when the train comes through, and then the team can just edit it out. It's fine.
Okay. All right. Fair enough.
So you
Um,
team they're listening to, they know that when it gets to the point, they know to edit this part out. They know to edit whenever the train comes through. I give them instructions, and again, why we book an hour for a half-hour podcast. So
Makes perfect sense. Makes perfect sense. But anyway, back to the scan. When I look at the report of the scan, what I usually do with folks is I write up a summary for them because there's a lot of things. Basically, the scan says whether you're in range for a baseline that it's determined for you, or are you out of range. And so a lot of things might look a little bit out of range, but if you took a scan tomorrow, they might be in. So I say, don't worry about the number of things that are in range. Let's just look to see how many are kind of far out of range and focus there. So, I have a lot of people coming through right now that, they've got a lot of toxins in their system. So everything from heavy metals to pesticides to herbicides, all of those things are like way out of range. So we look at ways to detox. Here it comes. I don't know if you can hear that.
actually, it's filtering it out. So we're good. Yeah, no, I'm like listening really closely. Nope. It's the Zoom is filtering it out. It's only focusing on your voice. So you're all
Oh,
good.
wow. Isn't
So
technology amazing?
it is
Because
well,
that was
that's part of
loud.
what we're talking about, right? Is the amazing technology that's out there. Not only can it scan your face and tell you everything that you really should know about your biomarkers, it can actually filter train noise out from the from your podcast.
I love it. I love it. Well, that's good to know. But yeah, so a lot of people we're seeing with high toxin levels. It also gives you a whole range of emotions and tells you where emotionally you're really out of balance. And I think you and I talked a little bit in the past as well about some of that stress reduction work that we do, and we're actually able to do it virtually. And that in itself is amazing because this is a virtual process that we're helping to the subconscious to identify things that are in your subconscious mind that are perceived as trauma, which is still creating stress in your body. And it's just amazing because that same scan, I had one gal, and this is for real. This one gal is a pharmacist, and she was dealing with a cancer diagnosis and just all kinds of stuff that was going on. And when I did the first scan with her, there's 200 biomarkers. She only had 16. 1/6 of them that were in range. Everything else was just blown away. It was awful. And she became really aware really quick that she needed to do some different things. But I did this stress reduction process on her, and I said, will you play with me? I said, because I've not done this. I said, can we do an after with you on the face scan? I want to see what that did differently. And she's like, okay. And we did it. And 63 of her biomarkers were now in range, from 16 to 63.
Wow. Wow.
So
Yeah,
that
that's so like that. The statistical significance of that is astounding. For those who don't
it
like me, when
is.
I use big words, that's huge. That's huge.
It is. It is. And the thing is that I say that the process we use is kind of like jump starting the battery in your car. But if the alternator is bad, you're going to go right back down after a
Yeah.
few days. So that's when we try to bring in some of these, nutrition, essential oils, different things that can help to, boost the body so that so that you can maintain that new level of feeling good versus what somebody had before. So it's
Yeah.
interesting stuff.
It really is. 'Cause people don't realize and even some of the people that I've seen with essential oils don't necessarily understand what essential oils do and do not do. And
Mm-hmm.
so having someone that can navigate that process from a place of true um, knowledge is important. I will share, somebody tried to get me to use an essential oil I know I'm allergic to. And I kept saying,
Okay.
no, I know. I have a naturopath. I work. You're not putting it. I just got very insistent. I said, look, I don't mean to be rude, but no, you cannot use that on me, period. End of story. And they finally backed off. And I thought, this was actually right before I met you. And so I was like, yeah, no, how your approach is so much different because you're open to the opportunities and the possibilities. Like, there are people out there, "Well, this must be this must be this." Well, no, because everybody's not a monolith.
No, they're not. They're not. And yes, I've run into a few of those folks. It's like, I'm sorry. I'd rather have multiple things that I can work with and deal with and figure out what's the best thing for somebody. And especially if you've already had a bad experience and you know that you can't go back down that path. Why on earth would somebody try to get you to go back down that path?
I, you know, ego at the risk of
Yes.
making a judgment call. Because
Yes.
some people do struggle to challenge their thoughts and beliefs about things.
That's
And
true.
so, which is one of the reasons why I like you so much, you don't. Um, so as we start to wind down, there are people that are watching this right now that are probably like, and I actually, one of my son's musicians that he records, they do the van life. So
Ah.
they're not, they can't afford the big RV yet, but they're doing the van thing. But they live in it and they travel around and they're documenting it. And so there's a lot of people I know that are fascinated about that. You can watch some movies,
I'm
but to
sure.
hear from somebody who's doing it, especially somebody who's doing it with purpose, which you are, in terms of creating community and giving people opportunities. It's so much more. Yeah, it's like it's first for a second. They'll edit it out, but we'll give it a second to catch up. There you are. Okay. So, but yeah, in what I was saying, I'll stop. There's so many people out there that are interested in this nomadic lifestyle, which is what people were once upon a time. I mean, if we're really going to talk about the journey of humanity, we were a nomadic people for you know since the early dawns of time. Um, but whether it's with that or what you do in terms of helping people by scanning their face, identifying their biomarkers, and moving forward with customized approaches that can help them resolve some of the physical aspects as well as resolving the challenges of trauma, which is a response to an event, not an actual event, except for as it gets alters our DNA.
Mhm.
It is a response to an event. So with all that in mind, what what do you wish you knew before you chose this path that you would want to share with others who are thinking about choosing a similar path?
That's a good question. Um, People need to understand that if they truly feel they've got some kind of a calling on their heart, it's incredibly important for them to pursue it, but they need to go into it with their eyes wide open because life is designed to be a learning experience. And one of the things when I've taught my class called Find Your Song and Sing It, finding or creating work you love, sometimes people can see where it is they want to go, but they have no idea what the learning curve looks like to get there. And so to get, all frustrated and wrapped around the axle because I should be able to set a goal and have it happen by this date. And it's like, doesn't always happen that way.
Yeah.
You have to be flexible. You have to understand that you're on a learning curve. You don't get to say what that looks like. You don't get to say how long it lasts. That I wish I had just had a better understanding of that up front because in the corporate world, everybody wants to talk about smart goals, right? And a smart goal, you're supposed to be able to say, I'm going to have this done by this time. And it's like, but when you get into an innovative process, when you get into a creative process, you can't do that because there's not, in many cases, there's not somebody else who's gone before you and said, first you do this, and then you do this, and then you do this, and it should take you this long. So you've got to give yourself some grace in that process and just understand that, you know, you may need to be doing more traditional work as you're going along through this process. But the good news is it really is worth it. And when you see how you've been inspired to help people, it's an amazing feeling. It's an amazing thing. I mean, I've just in the past year have had couple of young ladies that were very close to saying, I'm jumping off a bridge somewhere. And to be able to move them to where they're feeling happy and excited and seeing possibilities for their life, there's nothing better than knowing that you played a role in doing that. So it's worth it, but you got to have that upfront understanding that it may take longer than you think and definitely longer than you like.
Yeah. You know what? That could be a book title, actually. It's going to take longer than you think and definitely longer than you like. It really, it almost sells itself. I was sitting here thinking what you said about how, life is about the experience. We're here to learn. That's why we're
Yes,
here. And
that's good.
that could be its own book too. So I'm going to throw some seeds out there. Um, and that really is the best way to end up, excellent advice, and thoughts. And for those of you who are watching who want to know more about how you can reach Sheyenne, all of her contact information is going to be included with the links in this podcast, wherever you are listening or viewing it on the multiple platforms that we're on. But Cheyenne, what is the quickest way, in addition to the fact that they can literally just go to bit.ly bit.ly, scan my face, what is the easiest way for people to reach you?
Actually, I need to put another link on this graphic because I have a webpage now, unityforwellnessandpeace.com.
Oh,
And that kind of gives people the overall of the whole system that I've spent 25 years putting together. I hate to say that too loud because people get scared, but I'm a very unique unicorn of sorts, or a purple squirrel, or whatever.
whatever it is, it's why you do what you do, and it's why you're so great at what you do. And I love it. And yeah, I don't fit in most of us who do this kind of work don't really fit in a specific box. That's one of the reasons why we found it. Um, and we'll definitely make sure that Unity for Wellness and Peace, the website, so,
.com.
yeah,
Yep.
.com also gets added, and I know your links also do already include your Facebook page and things like that. So, Shannon, it's been a pleasure. I knew it would be. I was really excited to do this, and I hope everybody that's watching and or listening also really enjoyed it. And please reach out to her and explore the possibilities. And of course, we're just getting started. I can't believe I'm saying season 5, our second season of our podcast, our 5th season of our show overall. And we're really, really, really glad that you're joining us. You have so many viewing choices these days, and so many listening choices, so many choices. And so we really appreciate the fact that you invest your time and energy with us. And if you're benefiting from what you're hearing and listening to, please share it with others so they can benefit as well. And always remember, whether you're looking to make changes in your life, big or small, join us again for more conversations with illuminating, fascinating purple squirrel unicorns, such as Cheyenne, who saw some needs in the world, decided to make some significant changes and pivots, found her purpose is helping others live into theirs, and you can do the same.